The wind howled its mournful song across the high plains, a desolate symphony that had become the constant companion of Judith Vance. Her small cabin on the edge of the burgeoning but untamed settlement of Havenwood symbolized both her resilience and ostracism. It was 1675, and America's wild heart beat with a brutal rhythm. Havenwood, a cluster of log cabins and a proud meeting house, clung to existence, its inhabitants bound by rigid faith and social conduct. Judith, Sheriff Gideon Vance's only daughter, was a pariah. Her disgrace wasn't born of wickedness, but of a whisper, a misconstrued moment that had ensnared her 5 years prior. A drifter passing through had been found dead near town, and Judith, who had offered him a meal and water, was implicated. The truth, a sudden illness, was lost to the town's quick condemnation. They wove a narrative of impropriety, perhaps a forbidden liaison, leading to his demise. No concrete proof existed, only circumstantial glances, and the wagging tongues of women who envied her quiet beauty and her father's stern authority. Sheriff Vance, carved from the same hard rock as the land, had outwardly disowned her. He couldn't risk Havenwood's stability, couldn't allow the stain on his name to fester. Judith was banished to her cabin, close enough to be watched, far enough to be forgotten. Her days blurred with mending, tending a struggling garden, and watching the sun. She was 24, her youth withered by loneliness, her spirit a flickering flame against societal condemnation. Her hands, once soft, were calloused, her face etched with sorrow. Her auburn hair, pulled back, had lost its luster. She rarely ventured into town, and when she did, she was met with averted gazes, tight-lipped nods, or stares of contempt. Children, taught by their elders, pointed and whispered. Marriage, a woman's expected path, was impossible. No decent man in Havenwood would dare touch the sheriff's disgraced daughter. It invited collective scorn, a punishment almost as severe as banishment. The social fabric of Havenwood was tightly woven, a tapestry of shared hardship and communal judgment, where deviation was met with swift repercussions. God-fearing folk, they believed, knew right from wrong, and Judith, in their eyes, was clearly wrong. One particularly fierce autumn evening, the wind shrieking, rain lashing against the cabin, Judith sat by the meager fire, patching a worn cloak. The firelight danced across her face, highlighting shadows and worry lines. She was accustomed to the silence, to the creaking timbers, the rustling leaves. But tonight, a new sound cut through the storm's fury, a hesitant yet insistent knock on her door. Judith froze, her heart hammering. No one ever knocked. Her hand instinctively reached for the old iron poker. Foolish, she knew. Who would brave such a storm to torment her? Yet fear gnawed at her. The knock came again, louder, more desperate. "Hello?" A voice rough and low strained against the wind. "Is anyone there? I need help." Help? She was the one who needed it. Still the plea, the sheer desperation, pricked at her mercy. She moved cautiously, poker clutched, peering through a crack. Standing on her porch, hunched against the torrent, was a man. Tall, broad-shouldered, in a worn leather coat, his face was obscured by his hat, but she saw the glint of water on dark hair and a shadow of a beard. One hand pressed against his side, a dark, expanding stain visible. Blood. He was wounded. Her mind screamed to keep the door bolted. Strangers, especially wounded ones, were trouble here. Outlaws, or worse. But his plea echoed. He sounded truly desperate. A deep, dormant compassion stirred within her. She lowered the poker. "Who are you?" she called, thin but firm. He shifted, groaning. Silas Blackwood. I'm in trouble, ma'am. Shot. Just need a place to rest, a moment's shelter. I mean no harm." His voice was raspy, laced with pain. Silas Blackwood. The name struck a chord. She'd heard it whispered, seen it on wanted posters. A notorious outlaw. Wanted for what? Robbery? Murder? Rumors varied. A price on his head. And he was here. Her heart pounded. Catastrophe. If her father, if anyone, discovered her harboring a wanted man, her precarious existence would shatter. Yet, seeing his slumped form, his lifeblood seeping, she couldn't turn him away. The rain was relentless. The chill promised death. With a shaky breath, Judith unbarred the door, just enough for him to slip inside. The wind shrieked past him, bringing cold air. Silas stumbled over the threshold, collapsing onto her floor with a grunt. He lay there, dark and imposing. Judith quickly rebarred the door, hands trembling. She stood over him, fear warring with duty. He was wounded and vulnerable. She knelt hesitantly. His hat had fallen, revealing a rugged, refined face beneath grime. High cheekbones, a strong jaw, and eyes, now closed in pain, that held a flicker of something she couldn't decipher. His dark hair was streaked with gray, suggesting an age closer to her father's, though his frame was lean and powerful. "Where are you hurt?" she hushed. He gestured weakly. "The shoulder, it's bad." She carefully cut away his shirt, wincing at the jagged wound. It wasn't clean. The edges were inflamed. Blood still welled. He needed immediate attention. For the first time in years, Judith felt a surge of purpose. She moved with practiced efficiency, boiling water, tearing clean linen, gathering herbs for inflammation. Her grandmother had taught her frontier medicine. Forgotten lessons rushed back. Silas watched through slitted eyes, surprised. He'd expected fear, not competence. You know what you're doing," he murmured. "Someone has to," she replied, focusing on the wound, ignoring her trembling hands. The smell of blood filled the cabin. He winced, but didn't cry out. His stoicism was remarkable. She worked in silence, applying a warm compress, carefully extracting a piece of fabric, then binding it tightly. When she finished, he lay back, exhausted. "Thank you, man," he whispered. I won't cause you trouble." "You already have," she thought, but simply nodded, pushing hair from her face. She sat back watching him. The wanted man, the disgraced woman. A strange, dangerous tableau. The irony was not lost on her. Both outcasts, marked by society, now bound by compassion. The storm raged, mirroring her turmoil. What had she done? She invited a wolf. But watching his chest rise and fall, a different thought formed. Perhaps this man, this dangerous stranger, was less of a threat than the town that already condemned her. Over the next few days, as the storm subsided, a fragile truce formed. Silas, weak, remained largely silent, observing Judith. He ate the simple meal she prepared, accepted bandage changes without complaint. He was a man of few words, but his presence, initially terrifying, settled into a quiet, almost companionable rhythm. Judith, too, felt less afraid. His stillness, his pain, disarmed her. He never made demands, never questioned her somber demeanor. He simply existed, a quiet shadow in her solitary life. She learned small things about him, his ingrained stillness, his surprising gentleness when adjusting his bandage. One afternoon, as the sun broke through, casting long shadows, Silas spoke. "Why did you help me, ma'am? You knew who I was. The posters are everywhere." Judith paused. She truly looked at him. "You were hurt," she said simply, "and no one deserves to die alone in the rain." A long silence stretched. Then, a dry, humorless laugh escaped. "Besides, what more do I have to lose? My reputation is already in tatters. Harboring a wanted man can hardly worsen it, can it?" A flicker of understanding crossed Silas's face. "Disgraced, they call you, don't they?" he said, low. Judith flinched. "Yes, for a lie." She didn't elaborate. Silas nodded slowly, his gaze drifting to the prairie. Lies travel faster than truth in these parts, especially where fear and gossip take root. He seemed to speak from experience. Their shared status as outcasts began to forge an unspoken bond. Judith saw that Silas was not the ruthless desperado of the posters. He was guarded, wary, but with a weary integrity. He never took more than offered, always thanking her with dignity. As his wound slowly healed, a subtle tension filled the small space. Soon he would be strong enough to leave. The thought both relieved and unnerved Judith. His departure would remove danger, but also plunge her back into profound emptiness. Yet, she knew she couldn't keep him. The risk was too great. One crisp morning, Silas finally stood, testing his recovering shoulder. He moved stiffly but with renewed purpose. "I must leave," he stated firmly. "I've imposed enough on your kindness." Judith felt a strange pang. "Where will you go?" she asked. He shrugged. "West, perhaps, where the law hasn't quite caught up? Or south? It matters little, so long as I'm free." He pulled a small leather pouch. "This is for your trouble." She waved it away. I don't want your money. Just be careful. He paused, his dark eyes meeting hers. You are a good woman, Judith Vance. Don't let their lies convince you otherwise. It was the first time he spoke her full name, and the simple affirmation, without pity, sent a surprising warmth through her. It was a balm to her wounded spirit. As Silas prepared to leave, a new urgency gripped Judith. She had a right to know. She had risked everything. Silas, she said, trembling, why are you wanted? The posters, they say many things. He hesitated, then turned. His gaze was distant, haunted. The posters lie, mostly. I was a freighter, honest living, until I stumbled upon something I shouldn't have seen. He sighed. A corrupt land agent. He swindled new settlers, taking money for worthless deeds, claiming land that wasn't his. He had powerful friends. I saw him, overheard him, dealing with desperate families he was about to ruin. I tried to warn them. Judith leaned forward, captivated. This wasn't the story she'd heard. He sent men after me to silence me. Silas continued, voice hardening. They ambushed me. I fought back, defended myself. Some of his men were hurt. One died. The agent used his connections, twisted the story, said I was robbing them, a cold-blooded killer. He branded me an outlaw. His gaze met hers, raw and unwavering. I ran to protect myself, to expose him, but the law, fueled by his lies, was too fast. Judith felt a wave of righteous anger. This was not a villain, but a man who tried to do good, caught in corruption. It mirrored her own plight. The injustice burned. But what about the sheriff, my father, she asked. Silas gave a grim smile. Sheriffs in these remote towns have limited reach, Judith. Powerful men have long arms. Your father, bless his stern heart, likely received the information from higher up. He wouldn't question a legitimate source. He rose, resolute. I cannot stay. To stay would endanger you. I will not allow that. A sudden desperate thought seized Judith. She couldn't let him walk away. No, she said, stepping towards him, her voice strong despite trembling. You cannot leave, not yet, not like this. Silas frowned. Judith, you don't understand the danger. I am a marked man. And I am a marked woman, she retorted, her voice rising, infused with years of pent-up frustration. We are two sides of the same coin, Silas Blackwood. You, hunted for trying to do good. Me, condemned for something I didn't do. Do you truly think my life here would be any less dangerous if you left? My father's vigilance, the town's scorn, it will always be here. Her words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken longing and defiant vulnerability. Silas looked at her, truly seeing her as more than just a kind stranger. He saw the fire in her eyes, the years of pain, the deep loneliness, a kindred spirit. What would you have me do then? He asked, voice softer, laced with bewildered hope. Stay, she whispered, unwavering, just a little longer. We can think, we can plan. Perhaps there is a way to clear your name, or perhaps there is a way for us both to find a new life, somewhere else, far from Havenwood, far from the lies. The suggestion hung in the air, audacious and terrifying. It was a leap of faith, a desperate gamble. After years of despair, Judith felt a surge of vitality. The days that followed were a precarious dance. Silas stayed, hidden, venturing out only at night. Their conversations grew longer, deeper, revealing layers of their pasts, dreams, heartbreaks. Judith spoke of her mother, of yearning for a life beyond Havenwood, where she could breathe freely. Silas in turn shared his life as a freighter, his love for the open road, the feeling of true freedom. He spoke of corruption preying on pioneers. They found solace in each other's presence, two wounded souls patching each other up. Laughter, rarely heard in Judith's cabin, began to echo within its walls, tentative, then bolder. Their bond deepened. It was a quiet, profound affection born of shared vulnerability and mutual respect. Judith was drawn to his strength, his sense of justice. Silas was captivated by her resilience, her quiet courage, her deep compassion. He saw the woman, not the whispered disgrace. She saw the man, not the wanted poster. One evening, as the last rays of sunlight painted the western sky, Silas reached for her hand. His touch was hesitant, gentle, yet sent a tremor through Judith. "Judith," he said, voice raspy, I think I found my reason to fight for more than just my freedom." His gaze was intense, a promise. Her breath caught. The implications were immense, terrifying, exhilarating. In a world that condemned them both, they had found each other, a beacon of hope. But their fragile peace was about to shatter. Sheriff Vance, relentless in duty, increased patrols. Rumors of a wounded stranger near town reached his ears. He knew his daughter's cabin was isolated. A father's instinct, however buried, lingered. One day, Judith, checking traps, spotted a rider closer than usual. Jedediah, a zealous deputy. Her heart leaped. She quickly retreated, pulse pounding. "Silas," she whispered urgently, bursting back in. "Jedediah's out there. He's searching." Silas was instantly alert. "He'll find my tracks eventually. The ground is still soft." He peered through shutters. "We have to act, now." The truth about Silas's innocence, the corruption he uncovered, suddenly felt like a weapon. They had to use it. Judith's mind raced. How to reveal the truth, clear Silas, and expose her own injustice? "The meeting house," Judith said, surprising herself. "Everyone listens there, even my father. We must confront the land agent there." Silas looked at her, admiring. "It's bold, Judith, dangerous. Your father will recognize me." "Then we must ensure the truth is heard before he can silence you," she replied, chin defiant. Her fear transmuted into determination. She was tired of shadows, tired of being defined by a lie. Silas's presence ignited a spark. That night, under a moonless sky, they prepared. Judith gathered old maps, deed fragments contradicting the agent's claims, and herbs for pain. Silas, despite his wound, practiced drawing his revolver, vowing to use it only if necessary. Their plan: appear at Sunday service, expose the land agent. Sunday dawned, usually a day for reverence, but for Judith and Silas it was reckoning. Judith, in her best faded dress, walked beside Silas, who wore a borrowed suit jacket. His face was stoic, eyes watchful, hand near his concealed revolver. As they approached the meeting house, a collective gasp rippled. Whispers erupted. Judith Vance, the disgraced daughter, arm in arm with Silas Blackwood? Sheriff Vance, by the entrance, his face stone, looked as though he'd seen a ghost. His hand went to his pistol. "Father," Judith said, clear and strong, cutting through murmurs, "we have come to speak the truth." Before the sheriff reacted, Silas stepped forward, his voice resonating with authority. "People of Havenwood," he boomed, "my name is Silas Blackwood. I am known to you as a wanted man, but I am no criminal. I am here today to expose the true criminal among you, the man who has lied, cheated, and ruined lives, the man who framed me to cover his tracks." He pointed a steady finger at Bartholomew Grimm, the smooth-talking land agent who stood near the pulpit, his face ashen. Grimm, whose prosperity always seemed suspicious, now had terror in his eyes. "Bartholomew Grimm," Silas declared, "you have swindled these good people out of their rightful land. You have sold them worthless deeds, taken their money, and profited from their desperation." A murmur of disbelief, then dawning understanding, swept through the crowd. Grimm stammered, attempting to protest, to dismiss Silas's words. "He lies. He's a murderer. Sheriff, arrest him." Sheriff Vance, caught between duty and gnawing uncertainty, looked from Grimm to his daughter, then back to Silas. He knew Grimm was slippery, though he had no concrete proof. Silas's audacity lent credibility. Judith stepped forward, holding up tattered maps and deeds. "My grandmother kept records. These show Mr. Grimm has consistently sold parcels that were either already claimed or never his to sell." She handed the documents to a prominent elder, who began examining them with a frown. Silas recounted his ambush by Grimm's men, his self-defense, detailing Grimm's schemes, details only an insider would know. The townsfolk, many with vague unease about Grimm's wealth, listened intently, suspicion turning to anger. Grimm, seeing his facade crumble, made a desperate move. He lunged at Silas, pulling a concealed derringer. But Silas, his reflexes sharp, was faster. He sidestepped, his hand flashing to his revolver. Not drawing it, but merely showing it, a silent warning. Sheriff Vance, witnessing Grimm's blatant aggression, saw the truth. Grimm's panic spoke volumes. His duty was to justice, not reputation. With a roar, the sheriff tackled Grimm, disarming him. The scuffle ended with Grimm subdued, his schemes laid bare. The silence was deafening. Sheriff Vance, grim-faced, looked at Silas, then Judith. The truth, ugly and inconvenient, had arrived. He had been wrong. About Silas and about his own daughter. "Silas Blackwood," the sheriff said, voice heavy with newfound respect. "Your name is cleared. I will send word to the territorial governor. Bartholomew Grimm will answer for his crimes." He turned to Judith, his gaze softening, a flicker of pride. "Judith, my daughter, you have shown more courage today than many men. I am sorry." The apology, long overdue, quietly delivered, brought tears to Judith's eyes. Years of pain, of ostracism, began to lift. She was vindicated, not by acceptance, but by her own strength, her unwavering belief in justice, and the man beside her. The townsfolk, witnessing the drama, shifted from judgment to admiration. Whispers were now of awe, of respect for Judith's bravery and Silas's integrity. They had been wrong. In the aftermath, Havenwood slowly changed. Bartholomew Grimm was tried and sentenced, his network dismantled. Land was returned. A new just order took root. Sheriff Vance, humbled, became a more understanding leader. Judith's disgrace was lifted. Averted gazes became smiles. She was no longer outcast, but a heroine. Yet something profound had shifted. She had faced society's shadows and found light in an unexpected place, the heart of a wanted man. Silas Blackwood, now free, was offered honor in Havenwood. He had proven his heroism. But he looked at Judith, a question in his eyes. She knew his heart, his longing for the open road, for unburdened freedom. And she, who had yearned for acceptance, now yearned for more. A life of true liberty forged with the man who saw beyond her past. One crisp autumn morning, weeks after the confrontation, a small wagon stood packed outside Judith's cabin. Silas stood beside it, his hand extended. She took it, heart full, a wide, genuine smile on her face for the first time in years. Sheriff Vance watched from his porch, a wistful expression. He understood. His daughter, once broken, was whole, finding her own happiness. "Where will you go?" he called, voice thick with emotion. Silas helped Judith onto the wagon, then climbed beside her. He looked back at Havenwood, a place once their prison, now a place they were choosing to leave. "West, Sheriff," Silas called, strong and clear, resonating with hope. "We're heading west, to build a new life, a new home, one where truth matters more than whispers, and where courage paves the way." Judith squeezed his hand, gaze fixed on the horizon, on endless possibilities. The wild, untamed West awaited, a canvas upon which they would paint their own destiny, free from the past, together. They drove off, two souls once condemned, now unbound, riding towards a future where love, heroism, and an indomitable spirit would be their guiding stars. The legend of the sheriff's disgraced daughter and the wanted man who dared to love her would echo in the winds of the frontier, a testament to the resilience of the human heart in a world as wild and free as their own newfound love.